So, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
William Shakespeare.
William Shakespeare who?
William Shakespeare cans so they explode when you open them.
Yep.
Don't know if that one even dignifies a response.
Nah. Let's just...
But if you go to patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani and you open up one of the tiers, you'll get an explosion in your inbox of all the great content we make on there.
What a segue.
What a segue. Like the segues from The Runaway Bride. That was funny. Yeah, so we do full-length reactions to Doctor Who and Torchwood on Patreon. That's there. We have Twitter, Discord, and Letterboxd in the description. Yeah, that's the plugs. Anyway, Jake, Series 3, Episode 2, The Shakespeare Code.
Yes.
Your thoughts going into this episode?
I believe I said that we will be visiting Shakespearean era, maybe, and uncovering some mysterious puzzles.
Well, the last time you said it was going to be the Wild West and you were wrong.
Well, I wasn't. It was still wild, and it was technically somewhat at one point west of the Earth, so...
Really
depends what you denote Wild West.
West by what standard? By the pole standard, or
well, just
true west, magnetic west,
west, dude.
West.
If you're looking straight for you, it's north, and then you're west.
God, imagine having a space compass. That would be really complicated. Oh boy.
Where would it point?
Solar
Where would
compass.
The center of space point?
Solar compass. Well, if it's for the solar system, it'd be a solar compass, wouldn't it?
True.
Anyway, Adam, how are you doing?
I'm good.
You good?
I'm ready to roll.
All right. Well, if we've got nothing else to say, we should get on with the Shakespeare Code. Oh, you were right, Jake.
I am. Oh God.
Oh yes. Tonight's night.
If only it were as easy as that. A real witch. Oh boy.
Witches, eh?
Witches. Rhymes with bitches. Freeman Hageman!
I nearly spat on my mic. That would have been bad.
I'm gonna try to say it a different way every single time.
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
Before they what then don't step on any butterflies. What are butterflies?
I don't know. What if I kill my grandfather?
Are you planning to?
No.
Oh. Not so different from your time. Look over there. They got recycling.
Oh.
Will be consumed by flame.
Global warming.
This is a Shakespearean era version of Martha's theme, isn't it? It sounds like it.
Do people shout that? Do they shout author?
Author!
They do now.
Beautiful, brilliant word.
Shut your big fat mouth!
There's enough beer in this lodgings house to suit the Spanish.
Dolly Bailey, you've saved my life.
Do more than that later tonight.
Oh.
And you go.
No. Who let you in? No autographs. No, you can't have yourself sketch with me. And please don't ask where I get my... Hey, nonny. Sit right down here next to me. You two are sewing on them costumes off you.
Really? Forsooth, egads.
Interesting. That bit of paper. Blank. Oh, that's...
No, it says right there, so Dr. Martha Jones. It says.
I say it's blank.
Psychic paper. Long story. Oh, he's starting from scratch.
Can't believe I'm
It's
hearing this.
political correctness gone mad. Martha's from a far-off land. Fredonia. Excuse me? If it's the last thing I do, Love's Labour's One will never be played.
Ooh.
Oof.
Cold heart, wanton woman. I shall return later.
Oof.
Oh boy.
Eternal sleep is thine.
Oh boy.
Don't panic and think it was witchcraft.
Okay, what was it then?
Witchcraft.
Oh, I love that shot.
And you, Sir Doctor, how can a man so young have eyes so old?
I do a lot of reading.
Trying to reply. I might use that. Good night, Doctor.
99 Shakespeare. Contains Venusian spearmint.
So, who's going where? I mean, does anyone get it's all a bit Harry Potter?
Wait till you read book 7. Oh, I cried.
But is it real though?
Hadn't come out yet.
True.
There's something I'm missing, Martha. Something really close. Staring me right in the face and I can't see it. Rose and now. A friend of mine, Rose, right now, she'd say exactly the right thing.
Oof.
Take her down tomorrow.
Great.
Oh.
It's the most aggressive candle blow I've seen. Oh boy.
He's like me finishing my assignments last minute.
And then someone brings their vape.
Except it's all me.
He almost looks like the doll, like his expression.
Yeah.
What was that?
Spirit, rage, rage against the dying of the light.
I might use that.
You can't, it's someone else's.
The thing is, then you try this box, small wooden box with all that power inside.
Oh. Martha Jones, I like you. Tell you what though, Peter Street with
Oh. This is great. I feel like I'm watching a film, you know?
In fact, you've got a wife in the country.
But Martha, this is town.
Come on,
Is that a promise, Doctor?
Oh, 57 academics just punched the air. Now,
Oh, wow.
it's a spirit. It's a fire shade.
Got snapped by Thanos.
The futility of this fleeting existence, to be or not to be. Oh, that's quite good. Maybe not. A bit pretentious.
It helps if you don't whip them. Now get out.
He looks a bit like Toby from the Satan Pit.
Yeah.
It's not the same actor though.
Well, that's not gonna work. The whole building's shouting that.
Oh, die.
Real or legend?
Well, I'm going for real.
But what's the
Look at that shirt.
The right combination of words spoken in the right place with the shape of the globe is an energy converter. The play's the thing. And yes, you can have that.
Oh, we're gonna get a show, are we?
Good luck, Doctor.
Good luck, Shakespeare. Once more onto the breach.
I like that.
This performance must end immediately.
Oh, everyone's a critic.
You must forgive our irksome Will. He's been on the beer and feeling ill.
Great recovery.
Like that witch house.
We'll give it back. Well, that's just cheating.
Boy, oh boy.
2 hearts.
I'm not gonna have it. I've only got 1 heart working. How do you people cope? Hit me on the chest. Other side. On the back. Just a bit. Lovely. There we go. Bada boom.
Here we go. The meter's going up.
Yep. Martha's given him the cocaine. Prescribed cocaine this time. There's this new prescribed cocaine called methylbutterbumba hydroxide.
Pish! It's out of season to be heavy this
Pish! Global warming. It's like a really hectic game of Quidditch.
Wow, amazing special effects. In $15.99.
Yep.
Special indeed.
It's not your best line. Shakespeare walks into a pub and the landlord says, "Oi mate, you're bod."
Doesn't make sense.
Your breath doesn't half stink.
Good props. Reminds me of a Sycorax.
Sycorax. Nice word. I'll have that off you as well.
I should be on 10%. How's your head?
In memory of my boy, my precious Hamnet.
Hamnet.
That's him.
Hamnet.
What's wrong with that?
Anyway, time we were. Her Majesty, she's here.
I swore my enemy. What? Off with his head. What?
Well, never mind.
In the name of the Queen.
Something to look forward to.
Pause it. Alright, Jake, your thoughts on the Shakespeare Code?
Again, a very fun episode that was paced very well. Very quirky. Very fun. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And, like, the thing about this is, like, you know, last episode was great because it was, you know, it was a plot that was not very serious, but it wasn't as whimsical as this was. And this one was, I don't know why, but I enjoyed this one way more because it just, like, it was so creative. Just, there was so, I mean, in a way where it was like, you know, witches and all that, it's, you know, it's a bit of a trope with that time era, but I don't know, I found it very, very entertaining. I was thoroughly entertained throughout that.
It's very funny, isn't it? There's a lot of comedy. And it's interesting because the whole thing about Shakespeare's words, there's a lot of it, and it definitely breaks the rule of 3, but it's so clever that every single time they bring it up, it works.
Yeah.
Like, that was... That thing that was seeded throughout the whole thing was just wonderful, I thought. I this is an interesting one, because I remember as a kid, I didn't really get this one. I didn't understand it. But my dad loved it. And he said, kind of maybe when you're older you'll understand, because there's a lot of like subtext in there about words and Shakespeare that as a kid I didn't really get. And then the more I rewatch this, and as the years have gone by, I've grown to love it. And now I just, again, like you, Jake, it's such a fun episode. William Shakespeare's a great character. The comedy it's very meta, but it works so well. Oftentimes it subverts your expectations. It's quite a different historical in a way.
And it's poking fun at itself as well for the whole episode was just it was making fun of itself at the same time as making fun of that era, and at the same time
shut your big fat mouths.
At the same time making fun of like poking fun at modern day shit, like especially when they're walking down the street and they're like, oh, they got water coolers and they've got recycling and stuff like that, where and it's kind of like it's just there's just good comments on how people would turn their nose up on shit that is sort of exactly the same as what we got now.
Absolutely, yeah, it's brilliant. It's one of the most intricately lovely little scripts that have been written. It's such a
almost every line has been thought about, and it's not like things are written just to be, like a progressor. It's like you've got some lines that progress the plot, and some things that definitely are there to drive the story. But then you've just got the fun shit where it's just like it's great. And I love when a script can weave in all that fun dialogue that is like meta joking and all that, but still carry the story at the same time. Like those jokes don't overbear the rest of what's going on.
Yeah. And the chemistry between the Doctor, Martha, and William Shakespeare was just on fire the whole time.
Perfect fucking casting for Shakespeare. I think the actor of that, he did such a good job.
Oh yes.
Like, you believed he was Shakespeare, which was great.
That line where Shakespeare flirts with the Doctor and then he says 52 academics just punched the air, that was great.
Yeah.
So this is an episode Overtime that's really grown on me, and I love it now. It's just it's great, and it's got a cool sci-fi plot in there. I love the whole thing about how humans chose mathematics to measure sort of science, whereas the Carrionites chose words. I love that. That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a cool way to look at how, as humans, we don't understand everything, and it's
Yes.
And how our understanding is only what we have ever perceived. So it would make sense that another species perceives everything in a different way through words or what it would be.
And a perfect fit for Shakespeare, and it makes sense why they went to him, because he is so famous, not just on Earth, but in the universe for his words, which again, it just amplifies his legacy.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. And one of the reasons why we got Adam on this review is because, Adam, I know you have a background in Shakespearean theatre, so I'm really interested to hear your perspective on this episode.
I absolutely love this episode. It's just like you guys were saying, it's super breezy and super fun. It's just like the previous episode, just got this joyous energy about it. It's goofy to a certain degree, but it also takes itself just seriously enough that certain moments land, whereas if it was more imbalanced, they wouldn't have worked nearly as well. But everything that's in play is juggled really well, and for just a casual viewer, it's a lot of fun. It's just a bit of a romp. But also, for someone like me who's a bit of a dork about Shakespeare, there's so many little lines and things here which are just like Shakespeare, the Doctor quoting Shakespeare at Shakespeare, and then Shakespeare, it's that sort of grandfather paradox thing, which is, you know, a lot of fun.
Which is funny, because that's what Martha was talking about at the start, about what if I killed my grandfather? And he says, are you planning to?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't step on any butterflies.
And just this whole reverence it has for the works of Shakespeare, and how it ties that into the alien plot. The villain's plot is all about words, as you guys, exactly what you guys were saying. I echo your sentiments. This really clever idea of the science is beyond what we understand as humans. This is the power of words. This is something else, which allows the story to go into some really fun, creative ways, which means that witchcraft is real. It's just alien.
Yeah.
And it just, and the whole three witches thing, it's a takeoff of Macbeth, and the real life death of his son, Hamnet, is, we only assume, what inspired Hamlet.
Yeah.
And things like that. So there's all sorts of little tidbits here and there, which is just made with such reverence. But it's just, as I said, really, really fun. I just absolutely love it. It's super pacey, I really love the direction of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
The camera, when it's still, it's so deliberately still, and then it's constantly moving, not in like an annoying shaky cam way, but like there's just this big sweeping shots. For example, when the Doctor is in the globe, and he's sort of trying to figure out, well, the 14 sides, the camera is clearly on legs of some kind, and it's following David Tennant, but we just see, it looks like he's standing still, but the globe behind him is spinning.
Yeah.
It's just some really cool camera work, and they've used that space incredibly well, and it's just, I just absolutely love the way this whole episode's put together.
I also
really fucking cool sets on this one.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful.
Oh, the design's incredible.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And also, talking about Tennant, I feel like there's a noticeable difference in how he approaches comedy from what he's done before, because a lot of the comedy he's done before is a certain style. And there was an example in Tooth and Claw of when they used a bit more sort of like a bit more on the adult side, that, like, you know, when he was pretending to be Scottish and he's like, I bought this wee lassie in a London town for a few pence, you know, like that sort of thing. But here, like, the way that the Doctor is joking here, it feels a little bit aged up from what it's been before. And even though that may not necessarily be intended, retroactively, when I look at the 10th Doctor's time in the show, it kind of feels like he's growing a little bit older, and that's why his jokes are a little bit older. They're less teenagery and a bit more sort of someone in their 30s, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I feel about him here. He's funny, but it's a different kind of funny to what we've seen before, if you get what I'm saying. You know?
Absolutely.
And it's great. Tennant, like, was so good in this, and you can tell the actor has such a reverence for Shakespeare, and we know this because David Tennant apparently has set the record for the most times played Hamlet on stage.
Yes.
So he has a very strong connection with Shakespeare, and you could tell he really cared about this episode because of his connection to it. As all actors would anyway, but specifically him, you can tell he's loving it.
Yeah, you can tell he's just sort of bonded with the script in more ways than just being a fan of the Doctor. There's just so much going on that just seems very personal to him, which sort of makes it more just enjoyable to watch.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Because there's a passion there.
Yeah, of course. I love this again. Like, similar to Smith and Jones, there's just so much packed into this episode that I love, and it's so well structured.
Yeah.
I love the whole sequence of when they stay the night there, because it feels like a real passage of time, and it feels that's why that comment what I made where I was like, this feels like watching a film. It's because you really feel the passage of time over the course of a day and a night.
But it doesn't feel long. It just feels like it's, grand. It feels big.
You don't really get in a lot of the episodes. It's sort of like they drop into a thing and then they're there for a couple of hours and then they're out of there.
Absolutely.
This is probably one of the ones that has felt like they've been there the longest time.
They had proper
because even
world building to it, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly, because like something like even the two-parters, like the Satan Pit two-parter,
Yeah.
there's no real measure of obviously. I mean, they're right by a black hole, so time kind of gets sucked up, but it doesn't feel like a huge passage of time. There's no sort of real measure. Whereas in this, it's very measured. It's very clear and succinct and what's going on and.
Obviously, you've got something like The Girl in the Fireplace, which had lots of jumping in time, like years-wise, but that's a bit different. That's a bit more of like an artificial time. But I think, considering that, I think the longest passage of time from memory like that I think we've had so far compared to this was probably the Cyberman two-parter, because when they arrived, it was morning, and when at the end of the story, it's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. No, I think you're right.
Yeah, that's probably the closest we got before this, but I really appreciate that about this story, about the passage of time. It made it feel, big,
Yeah, like a big story. It made it feel like a elongated, drawn out, like encounter. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also liked how, because if you remember back in the Unquite Dead with Eccleston and Rose, Rose is saying like, I can't die here. I haven't been born yet, and he says, you can be born in the 21st century and die in the 19th or whatever, or the 20th or whatever it was. And then here it's like Martha's saying, well, but we already did all that stuff on the moon. How can that exist if the world ends in 1599? And the Doctor says, it's like Back to the Future. You'll start fading away.
Right.
And that was a great little reference.
Yeah.
It's just sort of something that it's a simple little thing where it's just like, hey, this is how it is. Don't overthink it. Just like the previous one, just go with the story. Just let it take you.
It is funny to think of the Doctor watching Back to the Future and also reading the Harry Potter books and everything. Like it's quite a comedic idea.
I love that how because when this episode came out, Deathly Hallows hadn't been released yet as a book, so the Doctor read Harry Potter before we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, that ties into the conclusion where they say Expelliarmus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite funny.
That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I think it was interesting to see Martha in this episode. I think the one thing that I used to always think about was like, why isn't she wearing a period costume? But then I remembered it's because this was just meant to be a short trip. They were just meant to like visit and then go back, and then they stayed.
Yeah, in and out.
So she had no time to get dressed into a period costume, and also like the Doctor wasn't really like, it wasn't like with the Unquite Dead where they had all this time on their hands. But I really liked how they addressed the whole thing of, well, she's a woman of color in the 1500s, like. This could have some consequences, and I like the fact of like the Doctor kind of didn't really. It kind of goes over his head because the Doctor is an alien and he doesn't really can't
understand culture.
Like obviously, the concept of racism to him is kind of like it's not really something he thinks about because he's an alien.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then once Shakespeare starts saying those things to her, he's just like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Political correctness gone mad. Queen of what did he say? It was like the Queen of Africa or something.
Yeah, my Queen of Africa.
Yeah, it's certainly it's interesting because if this was executed wrong, that could have come off really badly.
Yeah.
But it was executed so well that it gets away with it.
Yeah.
It the way it formulates the dialogue, it makes Shakespeare look like he just doesn't understand rather than racist, if you know what I mean. Like
there's no malice.
He's trying to compliment her with words, and the only description he can give is one that he sees, and the things he knows. And it's like, it's interesting, and I think it walks the line in the right way. If you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
But then again, at the same time, like, it's good that Martha was like kind of shocked at what he was saying, because obviously she's from the 21st century, and she's like, "Excuse me."
Yeah.
You can't say that to me. And another lovely moment in this episode that was awesome was when Shakespeare realized that the psychic paper was blank.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Martha's like, no, it's not. And then the Doctor's like, oh, just too much. Don't explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so is that just because he's too smart that he can't be tricked?
Oh yeah.
By it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like
Right.
It's almost like the reverse of the Jedi mind trick. So with the Jedi mind trick with the stormtroopers, it's like it only works on the weak-minded, whereas with the psychic paper, it works on almost everyone except for the extremely strong-minded, like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And it made for great comedy, I think.
Yeah.
So one thing that I have heard some people say before that they don't particularly like about this episode is that some people don't like how Panto-esque the Carrionites are, but I would say that they're wrong in my opinion because they're meant to be, because it's a pastiche of a Shakespeare play about witches.
Yeah.
So them being Panto-esque is by design, and it's kind of like what I was saying when Smith and Jones about how the Martha family thing at the end was like a piss take of a soap opera. This is like a piss take of a Shakespeare play.
Yeah.
And that's why it works. That's why I like the the hammy witches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
they were brilliantly hammy.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The whole thing just it felt right for what they were doing, and also they were just so much fun to watch. I found I just loved the makeup job, and B they were
their charismatic.
whole over the exactly, and
Yeah.
it was theatrical. You know, it just I found it works really well, and they did provide some malice despite being so over the top.
Did you guys kind of notice after they they would have an encounter with like the Doctor and Martha, the Doctor and Martha would kind of rhyme a little bit afterwards,
Yes.
just for like a second, just for like a couple of lines, and then once they were gone again, it would go back to normal.
Yes.
Well, it's like rhyming couplets in Shakespeare. You know, it's that sort of rhythm. It's all about the power of the words. It is very clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I really like the death scenes. Like, firstly, you have the one with the guy drowning from the inside. That was awesome. Not only does it work for the witchcraft, but it ties into the fact that Martha is a doctor, and that connects. And then you've also got the bit where the Doctor is he's just wiped a guy's memory of all this torture so that he doesn't have to deal with the pain that he's been dealing with in that asylum. And then the witch comes down and kills him with a touch to his heart, and it's like she just killed an innocent man, and it all just fits, it all just fits so well together, and it's productive. Another thing that some people criticize about this episode that I and Adam disagree with their views on is the scenes where Rose Tyler is referenced. Because a lot of people say, why is the Doctor being a dick and fucking treating her like shit? But the thing is, the Doctor doesn't understand how Martha's feeling. He doesn't get it. It's so well, it
only took him like fucking 2 series to understand how Rose felt. So he's not gonna pick it up straight away, right?
Like he's still an alien, and
it's funny how it's like when Martha doesn't understand something, he's like, oh, you just don't understand, and then he just doesn't understand basic human emotion.
Oh yeah,
which
that's why you get that scene where
funny contrast.
They're on the bed and she's like, oh, this is getting a bit intimate, and the Doctor has no idea what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And like he's doing all these things that are like really impressive to, like, if it was a human interaction, it'd be like, oh, he's flirting with me, like the toothbrush from the thing. But he's just doing it because he's like, oh, I've got this toothbrush here, it's very useful.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
The Doctor doesn't realize how unintentionally flirtatious he is at times,
And even so, like, he not necessarily, like, deliberately does it, but he's sort of subconsciously putting the shield up between himself and, like we talked about in the last episode, he doesn't know how to process what he's going through. He doesn't understand it, as you guys were saying. So when Martha comes at him sort of flirtatiously, this sort of subconscious alarm bells go off, and he's like, yeah, shutting that shit down. Yeah. And he's just thinking about, like, okay, what would Rose do? What would Rose do? And it seems he's
trying to problem solve, but he doesn't realize by doing that he's hurting her feelings.
Exactly. it comes across as insidious, but that's not how he means it. He doesn't mean anything by it. He's just simply thinking, oh God, Rose would know. Instead of asking, saying to Martha, well, what do you think? He automatically just says, oh, well, you're new, I can't blame you. You haven't picked up on these things yet, despite the fact that she's very astute.
Yes, and
like,
and that's what, and you know that he's not aware of how she feels about it, because it's like that's when you get that scene where he looks at her and he says, Martha, there's something staring at me blank in the face and I just can't see it. And it's true. He can't, because obviously in the previous episode she said to him, I'm not remotely interested, and he took that at face value of like, oh, well, okay then, that's good. But obviously she is interested and she just doesn't want to say it.
Yeah.
And that's, and by her not admitting to him how she feels, it's hurting her because he's inadvertently talking about another woman, you know? And I feel like a lot of people don't read this deep into it, and they take it at face value, like the Doctor takes Martha at face value, and they only see it as him like being a dick to her, when that's absolutely not what it is. It's him unintentionally hurting her. If you get what I'm saying, like Jake, what would you have to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are right, and that's I mean, it's one of those criticisms where it's like from people where you want the Doctor to, you know, be human and do what a human would do, but you got to remember he's not a human. He doesn't understand the way that the notions that humans have when they're flirtatious and they're interested with people. So it makes the whole thing makes sense, and it's not it's I don't think it's really well, I mean, people are allowed to critique anything the way they want, but
of course
it's I think it's a criticism where you just have to kind of think about what you're saying before you kind of before you say it.
Well, obviously, I the thing is, I find people that come at me with this criticism that I personally feel like they're a bit wrong-headed, because when I try and defend this, they say, well, do you really think that Martha deserved that? I'm like, no, it's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that she deserved it. I'm just saying that that's what's happened as a result of this misunderstanding. And you have to have that in perspective, that the Doctor doesn't realize that this is hurting her because he's completely oblivious to how she feels. And it's, if you pay attention to the episodes, you might know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. But yeah, it's, again, like, having the reference to Rose, and also you have the scene where the witch uses the words, it's like, I don't know what your name is, which again goes with the whole thing of, we had that scene in The Girl in the Fireplace where Madame de Pompadour looked into his mind, and, you know, obviously you're a man with no name, and the witch here says, I can't find your name because you kept it so secret, but there is one name that does affect you, and that is Rose. And she says it obviously in a rhyming way, but I probably can't really remember it unless I wrote it down. But again, it's like, I just love the way that, with obviously Gareth Roberts wrote the episode, but Russell T Davies has come in and he's intertwined all of this stuff with the characters as well.
Yeah.
And again, you get like other details too. Like, for example, it's like, does the Doctor actually sleep? We don't know.
Yeah.
It's just little details that I love about this episode. It's so well crafted, I think. But yeah, I just, brilliant. We've spieled all about a lot of it. Anything else we want to?
No, I think the last thing I would say is, like, I do appreciate the way they're continuing plot lines from season 2 into this one. Like, it's not like, you know, everything that's happened in that series is finished. It's sort of still being wrapped up slowly toward the start of this, and then maybe when we get into the second half, we'll start having, you know, more dominating ideas and things happening where we'll forget about Rose and we'll forget about all those other things. So yeah.
Yeah. And also what I want to add to that is I completely agree, but also it doesn't dominate the narrative at hand.
No.
It's like
it's just
we're
a
still
tiny
focused.
speck.
Exactly. These little moments come up because of the circumstances they're in.
Yeah.
It's not that the whole thing is being dominated by them talking, expressing what's going on in the larger narrative. It's just that through line is there, just adding to the foundation of this already fun episode.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I completely agree. I'm glad we're all on the same page with this one, because this can be quite a divisive episode for some people. But hang on. But glad.
I can imagine people that aren't into Shakespearean era and
well, I mean,
that kind of playwright.
The thing is, when I was a kid, I used to be like that, so I understand what it's like to not really get this one. But once you actually have perspective, and I think this is a case with not just this, but a lot of historical stories of just knowing about the era and the characters in them.
Yeah,
it's so rewarding, and that's why
I think it's a factor of also, like, obviously it's a factor of growing up, because as you grow up, the things around you that happen day to day get boring, and then it's kind of cool to look into the past and know what happened. So
and
as you get older, you just kind of naturally learn about the past. So it really makes sense that as an older person now, this episode has way more weight and meaning to it, because it just, you get the little subtext, the little moments that you wouldn't really pick up if you had no clue what the hell most of it was about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anything else we want to add on before we get to the clip?
No, I'm good to go.
All right, so we're going to be watching a classic clip from a Fifth Doctor story called Enlightenment. And the reason why is because in the Shakespeare Code, there was a reference to the Eternals. They talked about how, when the Doctor asked the Carrier Knights why they're here, and I believe they referenced how the Eternals... this is all building like little there's mini stories that were going on during the Time War of different aliens fighting each other on the side. We've heard before about a bunch of like the Gelth and the nesting consciousness, and all those people being affected by the Time War in some way. And again, it's like it suggested that the Eternals and the Carrier Knights had something in the Time War together. And that's why the Carrier Knights have come to Shakespeare to refuel on words. So the reason why we're going to be watching this clip is I'm not 100% sure if the Eternals appear in this clip. I just couldn't really find any. But this clip is from the episode that introduces the Eternals in the classic series. So and it's called No Ordinary Ship.
Did you manage to find out anything about the race?
Well, the crew don't know anything. Can't we go back to the TARDIS?
Yes, when we found Tegan.
What was that?
One of the crew going aloft.
I mean, you send completely inexperienced crewmen aloft in a race.
They soon get used to it.
Now, wait a minute. Wetsuits? Wetsuits doing on an Edward? It's dark outside.
Isn't it always dark?
Well, it's that I expected it to be daylight.
Maybe this will tell us where we are.
Well, doesn't make a lot of sense.
It looks like the position of marker boys.
Oh, they're considerably more than that.
Mr. Mate, we will look at our competitors, please.
Aye, aye, sir.
Electronics. An Edwardian racing yacht.
We're not on a yacht, we're on a ship. A spaceship.
There you go.
How about that?
Yacht ship.
That might be a thing soon, in the next 500 years. With solar sails and all that.
Yeah, that's
if humans make it that long.
I believe that's the I think that's the cliffhanger to part 1. I watched that story a few months back, Enlightenment. So basically, they materialize on a ship and they think they're on a ship in water, and the whole of that episode is building up to them revealing that they're in space, which is really cool. And then it's revealed that they're racing another ship, and the other ship has the Eternals on it.
Oh, right.
It's great story enlightenment. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Adam, how long has it been since you've seen that one?
Enlightenment?
Yeah.
Oh, a good while. A couple of years at least.
Yeah. You've seen the Fifth Doctor a couple of times, Jake, I think. The one that I remember the most is you saw Tegan's exit scene where she left. That was quite early on.
Yeah, I don't actually remember Tegan's exit at all. Was the Fifth Doctor the two sugars one as well?
No. Okay. Christopher Eccleston was Two Sugars. Oh, Seventh. Oh, that's right. That's right, the Seventh.
I was really confused just then. I was yeah.
Fifth Doctor's, obviously you could see he wears like a cricket vest and has a jacket over.
Yeah, I don't really remember any other ones, but that's a pretty cool concept. It'd be cool to see what the Eternals look like.
I mean, they kind of look like people, to be fair, but they're they're just a little bit odd. Like it's more so the way they act that's creepy, not the.
So the people on that ship, were they just normal humans?
I believe so. Yeah.
Right. Just futuristic humans. With sailing spaceships.
Yeah, the Eternals dress differently to that though, and they do look like humans, but it's the way they act. They're very like unsettling. It's unfortunate that they haven't uploaded a clip of the Eternals.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that connects to the Shakespeare Code because of, because of the Carrie Knights going to Earth because of the Eternals. So there's a little interlinking there, bit of fan service. But, fan service that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool. All right, then. So, the Shakespeare Code has a relatively positive reception. Scott Matthewman gave the Shakespeare Code a mostly positive review, highlighting the guest performances and the theme of the power of words. Dick Hogan found the plot ludicrous, but praised the production values and special effects. He speculated that he might like it better when watching it again later, as he had warmed up to Martha. Nick Setchfield awarded the episode 5 out of 5 stars, finding the production confident. He praised the acting witty script, concept of the Carrie Knights, witch-like appearance. Travis Fickett, he said they found the plot straightforward, but still said it was entertaining with a good performance by Kelly, who played Shakespeare. So this story is written by Gareth Roberts, who you haven't had yet, Jake.
Okay.
Gareth Roberts is new. He's known for his comedy. Like, he's generally a comedy writer.
Right.
But he's done quite a few Doctor Who stories, some for TV, some for the audios, and a couple of books, I think.
Yep.
So his writing style, what would you say it was kind of a breath of fresh air? Like it's something you hadn't really had before? I think so.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely, it felt like, it just felt new and way a lot different to, like I said, like it wasn't serious, but it still was serious, but it had that tinge of just lighthearted fun, which was really good. And it would make sense that he's a comedy writer, so because he would know how to write jokes that are actually funny instead of just slapstick.
I feel he really got the balance right here between the tone, which was needed.
Well, it's not, because I feel like a lot of the jokes in past episodes are kind of at like the expense of a character, or at the expense of something that's happened in the plot, or like, the one thing I can really pull up is the council worker from Fear Her, yeah. That's that kind of comedy. Yeah. Like, whilst it's still funny, it's sort of it's comedy that's, you set up a character to be your punchline.
Elton Pope was a big punchline in Love and Monsters as well, as was Jackie Tyler.
Whereas in this, it's like there's no characters the punchline, no part of the plot is the punchline. It's just good, woven jokes into the
I think
script that make sense.
It's rather than like a situation being funny for us, it's more like the characters are actually funny with each other, you know?
Yeah.
If you get what I'm saying, it's like they're having a funny conversation that is funny to them as well as us, you know?
Yeah.
It is definitely a different approach, and I think it really works.
Mm.
Like, you can tell Gareth Roberts, he put so much love into the script for this.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Adam said before, the direction by Charles Palmer was fantastic. It just looked great. I loved the shot of the skull on Shakespeare's desk. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a really nice shot. There are a lot of great shots.
All right, so the director Charles Palmer, as an under-the-radar director, Doctor Who was his biggest break. He also did the previous episode as well. So it was interesting because I feel like a lot of the shots were quite similar, Smith and Jones and Shakespeare Co. But obviously the setting was way different.
I think the great thing about it was you have these marvelous sets like the shots really played the sets beautifully. Like if you've got these amazingly built, like constructed sets, you really want to highlight them in your shots because you don't want some set designers to be angry at you because that's the worst thing you want.
Any direction to do with the Globe Theatre was great.
Yeah.
I love,
and I liked how the lighting and it looked natural as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a replica of the globe or that had already.
No, it was the
been
real
built.
thing.
Oh, it was a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I believe we may get to this in trivia, but I believe it was the first television production to be allowed actually to film inside the globe.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
But yeah, any direction to the globe was great, and I thought the climax was convincing. With like the scale of it was really convincing.
Yeah.
100%. But it wasn't it wasn't like a generic blockbuster way of directing. It was actually really stylish. The way that they use angles to create the scale was fantastic.
And also the fact that clearly they'd only filled up about maybe 4 booths and then just copied and pasted the audience all over the place. They still made it convincingly look full.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Yes. So I haven't got anything else to say about the direction, but if you do, you can say it now.
Great. And like also there was a shot which was mainly CGI, but just the way it was composed, where we had I'm assuming it's the Thames, and there was a little bridge going over the River Thames.
Oh yeah.
And the globe was in the horizon, and it just looked stunning. That was in the morning after Shakespeare had written.
I'm pretty sure those would have been paintings or like drawn, and then they would have just animated little parts of it, which is sometimes like some of my favorite kind of special effects. Like, have you guys seen Sin City before?
No.
Yes.
Oh, they do that same kind of thing because it's based on a graphic novel, right? So it's just those kind of like settings where like half of it's drawn, then some of it's animated. They just look so fucking cool. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
We talked before about the Sidemen two-parter being comparative when it came to passage of time, but I would also say comparatively this and the Sidemen two-parter both had a really great setting, and like in terms of the opposite of New Earth, which didn't have very good geography, this had great geography. Like you always knew where
100%.
characters were, and there's like this. It felt like there was this map of all these places they were going to. Oh, it's just such an adventure.
I think the reason I like this more than the Sidemen thing is because Cybermen thing's still modern day, and it's still like, you know, like things that you would see every day, or in terms of like setting. But this is like, you know, everything is different, and it just makes it feel like more of a fantastical story instead of.
Yeah, well, it was all dressed up to be like $15.99, and it was convincing.
Yeah,
and it had
extras,
just
for example,
beautiful atmosphere to it, you know.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't a huge, big, wide, expansive shot, when they first emerged from the TARDIS, and there was just maybe 14 extras just milling about, but the fact that there was straw and dirt all through the street, and everyone was kind of like grimy looking, it just felt convincing.
Pre World War era, Britain and Europe in general is always like such a great atmosphere when you treat it well in a historical. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because we talked in Series 2 review about how the Blu-ray transfer made Tooth and Claw look like a beautiful gothic horror. And it's just like, when you use a historical the right way, it can be some of the best like cinematography you get in the show.
Yeah.
It's just great. But we'll move on to Murray Gold.
Murray Gold.
So, Jake, do you want to talk about the music first, or do you want to listen to the track?
Let's listen to the track again first.
And we shall listen to the Carrionite Swarm.
Whee!
Pretty epic.
Oh yeah.
It absolutely is. It's terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I think it's they obviously played when they released the fellows out into the air.
Yeah.
And then the ending wraps it back up really nicely, where they just plop right back in.
I love it because not only does this track feel right for witches, but it feels right for Shakespeare as well.
Yeah.
It's such a great blend.
Yeah.
And it was epic.
But it's still right for Doctor Who as well. Like it's still,
Oh yeah. It has the same Murray Gold trumpet sound to it, but it's still it feels blended into the historical element. It sounds older. There's a lot of wind and all that.
The drums are really cool.
Oh, the drums are really great. Cool. Yeah. And it's really catchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just absolute banger. I mean, like Murray Gold's got like an undefeated streak at this point. Like he just constantly is tuning out these.
Hasn't really done anything wrong yet, has he?
Nope.
Not really. I mean, there was that guitar track in The Idiot's Lantern, but we can look past that. But apart from that, he's just such a good composer, and this is no exception. Like the Carrionite Swarm is perfect for the scene that it's in, and it created such an epic scale to the finale of the episode. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It had the right amount of bombast without, and it was never overpowering because there was so much going on in that scene. It just balanced really well.
earlier in the episode, when the Doctor says to Martha, you know, the Carrionites are here for the end of the world, you're like, no, it's not the end of the world, this is episode 2. But then when you hear this music playing in the climax, it's like, no, it really is.
Yeah.
It really does sound like it. Oh,
absolutely.
I love the Doom. Like, that just reminded me of the Doomsayer being like, I was right!
Oh, that was so cool!
Yeah, that just reminded me of that.
Oh.
Again, it's one of those things where there's a whole bunch of like little sets up and payoffs throughout the whole episode.
Yeah. And also, one that is at the very ending of the episode, Queen Elizabeth I arrives and wants to have the Doctor's head. And the Doctor's like, I have no idea why, but I'm going to find out eventually. Something to look forward to. So that was cool.
Kind of a fourth wall breaking moment, that.
Do you reckon?
Well, it's kind of like him saying, like, wait for a future episode, you know?
Yeah, in a way. But yeah, I like that. That was cool. Yeah, just Murray Gold is a genius.
Absolutely is.
Music throughout was really good. I wouldn't say I noticed it a lot, but I definitely remember that track playing and pumping.
What I want to mention is, Connor, you mentioned it during the rewatch, is there is a version of Martha's theme which is done with instruments of the period, and it just sounds fantastic.
That was fantastic. Yeah.
And it feels right for Martha, and it feels so right for the episode. It just slots right in perfectly.
Yeah.
Apparently, the Queen Elizabeth theme was Russell T Davies' idea.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's very Russell, and it's such an interesting way to end the episode. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's just fun. It's just like the whole episode. It's just fun. You know, it's just a good way to sort of cap it all off.
Yeah. Apparently, originally, the scene where they go to bed, the Doctor was going to casually undress down to his underwear. But still obliviously invite Martha to share the bed, and it was rewritten as the producers and Tennant thought it would be inappropriate. Also,
going a little bit far.
I feel like that at that point the Doctor would be stupid to not realize what's happening.
Yeah.
Like that would be that'd be pushing it.
Too much of a stretch.
I think what they went with was better.
Yeah.
But maybe Gareth Roberts just wanted to see Tennant naked or something. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Apparently, the producer, Phil Collinson, said this was the most expensive episode ever because of the large amounts of CGI. So this was more expensive than Doomsday.
Yeah, that checks.
Yeah.
Because at least with Doomsday, there's big, expansive sets, but it's all set in modern day.
Yes. Fredonia, which is where the Doctor said Martha was from, is a fictional country from the comedy film Duck Soup.
Which is a Marx Brothers film.
Christina Cole revealed on the audio commentary that she took her vampire teeth home with her.
Can't say I blame her. It's a cool memoir.
She did a great job.
Memento.
Yeah. This was Freema Agyeman's favourite episode to film.
Oh, yeah.
Because she loves Shakespeare as well, just like Tennant. I remember I watched an interview with her about the show, and they asked her, what was your favourite episode? And she said, I loved filming this one because I love Shakespeare.
That's fantastic. Can't say I blame her. It's just it would be so much fun with the costumes and the creatures and the sets. It'd just be an absolute dream.
Yeah, and also like the Love Labours one being the lost play of Shakespeare. In a way, there's kind of like a little meta joke in there. It's kind of like a tie into how like Doctor Who has missing stories that have been lost.
Yes, that's true.
If you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, originally they were going to have Shakespeare's daughter Susanna appear, but they couldn't find time for it. Well, it's a very stuffed episode, to be fair.
Yeah.
True. Yes. Viewership 7.22 million, so slightly down from the previous week, but still going strong. 7.22 is nothing to be ashamed of.
Not at all.
It's a fantastic rating to get. So, Jake, your conclusion and rating out of 10 for the Shakespeare Code.
So far in series 3, this has been my favorite episode. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed Smith and Jones. That was a great episode, but I think the new comedic writing from what's his name?
Gareth Roberts.
And you know, just the acting in general in this, the music, the set, the setting and the themes and the play on words and everything, it just all worked together very well to make a very enjoyable episode. So this is probably going to get a this is probably going to get a 10 out of 10 for me.
Whoa.
Holy shit!
Yo, 10 out of 10.
It's going to get a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, boy, 10 out of 10. All right, that's more like it. Now, Adam, your turn.
I pretty much echo all the same sentiments. It's just so much fun. I just grin from ear to ear throughout the whole episode every time I watch it. It's just from the music to the editing to the sort of cheeky sense of humor throughout the whole thing to the fun ending and also the right amount of drama without it ever getting too melancholy with the sort of over-the-top bombast. It's just fantastic. It's just... you know what? I've been swayed. 10 out of 10 as well.
So for me, this was an episode that if you had asked me, like, when I was younger, I probably would have given this, like, a 6, because I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what is this Shakespeare? Like, I hated Shakespeare as a kid, because I was like, oh, it's just boring English work, you know? Something that I'm going to learn at school. And then watching it now, as I'm older, understanding all the humor and all the brilliant dialogue and the character work with the Doctor and Martha and William Shakespeare, the tone and how brilliantly it's handled, the plot with the Carrionites, and you know, like, you've got there's just so much to love here, and it's such a beautiful episode that is so well crafted, but I do feel a bit under pressure, but I think I will stick with my gut feeling. I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Fair enough.
It's never going to be one of my favorites of all time, I don't think. It's not quite on the level of something like Army Ghost Doomsday, Satan Pit, you know, Girl in the Fireplace, Parting of the Ways, Doctor Dances, Dalek, Father's Day. It's not like one of those, but it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
The thing is, for me, why I decided to push it over the edge is this is, for me and my tastes in Doctor Who and that kind of thing, this is as good of a fun, quote-unquote, episode as you'll ever get, you know?
Yeah.
It's just exactly like, it's not one of the more dramatic or really sort of clever episodes. It's
I would say there's one Tom Baker episode that is better than this in terms of that, but that's just me. And I think you know the one I'm talking about. The one with John Cleese in it, funnily enough, with your picture being John Cleese.
Yes.
Because, oh boy, City of Death is fucking brilliant. But no, that's no insult to the Shakespeare Code. Shakespeare Code is awesome.
Absolutely.
And it's one of, I think it's, when I think about episodes that have gone up in my mind over the years, this is one of them that's gone up the most. It's improved with the repeat viewings. It's awesome.
I'm glad I watched this now at the age I am instead of watching it when I was a kid. Because I would have glanced over it as well.
Yeah, probably. Excellent, yeah. So, all round, just top marks for Shakespeare Code. Well done. Well done. All right then. So, Jake, going off that, we've had a brilliant string of episodes. Ever since Army of Ghosts, we've just had a banger after banger, it seems.
Except for that, I mean, well, Torchwood's a different show.
Torchwood's a different show.
Except for fucking day one.
That was still fun to watch, to be fair.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, but it was just it was weird. But talking specifically about Doctor Who, like we've been on a good roll since Army of Ghosts, so we'll see whether or not that'll continue. So next time, we're going to be watching the third episode, which is called Gridlock.
Okay.
So your thoughts going into Gridlock?
Man, have you guys ever been in a gridlock before?
Yes.
Yeah. Look, you hear the word Gridlock, and it's just going to be awful. So, well, we'll see what happens, eh?
Yep.
It's gonna be so shitly paced that you're gonna feel like you're stuck in traffic. 1 out of 10.
Yeah, we're not gonna move anywhere. It's just gonna be Martha and the Doctor and the TARDIS just sitting there, just like. Well, we've moved probably about 30 centimeters.
Yeah.
It's been 20 minutes.
The doctor's gonna talk about Rose for 45 minutes, and Martha will kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Anyway, but Adam, do you want to say anything else before we finish?
No, I'm good. I'm just happy to be back on the Russell T Davies train.
Oh yes. Yeah. So we will see you all next time for Gridlock.